Oh boy, man. This happened last night, and when I saw it go down, I was like, okay, we can't make a video about this now. It's like 9 p.m. But I'll show you this screenshot here. This was taken last night at 10:43 p.m., aka right now. When I'm talking into this microphone, it's 10:43 p.m. at night on Friday. But at the time of me speaking into this microphone, the number one article on theprovince.com happens to be about the Canucks. And the Aquilini family confirming that the team is not for sale. Not to mention number 3 and number 4, each of these articles are also Vancouver Canucks related. And then you have the Whitecaps, super red hot fire Whitecaps, by the way, second overall on the province. But I wanted to dive into this piece published by Steve Ewan and Patrick Johnson from last night. It's last night for you, it's like a few minutes ago for me. But the Canucks, Aquilini family speaks out and confirms the team is not for sale. The Canucks also said that Paolo Aquilini has resigned from his position with the team. Now, this is an interesting opportunity for many of us in the Vancouver fan base to start understanding what roles are given to what people. Because obviously, when you think Canucks and when you think Aquilini, everybody just says, oh yeah, Francesco Aquilini is the mastermind, the puppet string master who does everything behind the scenes, and every decision, every intricate detail of the Canucks hockey team is all fed through and filtered through and sometimes even suggested by him. Like he's the lady in the Bye 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 video, pulling all the strings and getting Justin Timberlake to do some wacky poses. That's sort of the reputation that Francesco Aquilini has amongst Canucks fans. But reading this article and just kind of listening to the tea leaves and the discourse surrounding this market, we're starting to understand more as to what the other Aquilinis do. Because it's not just Francesco. Let's go out there and read this piece. Article is linked in the description, by the way. Let's dive into it right here. The Vancouver Canucks are not for sale. In a statement late Friday, the team ownership balked at reports suggesting that they're on the block. But they did admit that Paolo Aquilini is leaving his spot in the family-based ownership group, although they didn't elaborate on why. The Aquilini Investment Group, father Luigi, sons Francesco, Roberto, and Paolo, have owned the Vancouver Canucks and Rogers Arena outright since November 2006. They bought a 50% share in both the Canucks and the arena from John McCaw in November 2004. They also own the Canucks farm team, the AHL's Abbotsford Canucks, and the National Lacrosse League's Vancouver Warriors. Paolo's picture was recently removed from the Vancouver Canucks website. He's been tied to the charitable side of the team and family efforts, such as the Canucks Autism Network and Canucks for Kids Fund. Pictures of Francesco, listed as chairman and governor, and Roberto Aquilini, who is alternate governor, remain under the ownership heading on the website. Now pause. I'm just gonna say this right here. If Paolo Aquilini was the guy who is more so in charge of the Canucks Autism Network and Canucks for Kids Fund, then I think that's a really big loss for those teams there. And I'm saying that as somebody who doesn't really know much about the inner workings of the Vancouver Canucks as a business. I'm just saying that as an outsider who looks at the Canucks Autism Network and the Canucks for Kids Fund and says, yeah, they do amazing work every single year, from the telethon drive to the Canucks Autism Network Sports Day and all the other interactive events that they have throughout the area, throughout Vancouver, throughout different parts of the Lower Mainland. There is so much amazing work that the Canucks as a charitable organization does for kids in the community, for those who need more support. It is amazing. And we can talk all the smack that we want about the Vancouver Canucks as a hockey team, as a management group that decides which players to sign and which players to trade and whom it is that they want to side with in Miller and Pettersson feuds. That's totally fine to criticize, but I think you're totally off your marbles if you are going out there and critiquing the work that the Canucks Autism Network and Canucks for Kids Fund have done. So if Paolo Aquilini was the main guy who is in charge of that and he's now gone, I do think that's a pretty big hit, just from a subjective outsider's point of view. I don't really know if this means anything too big internally, But that's just what I'm connecting here based off of the information we have. Let's continue reading the article here by Steve Ewan and Patrick Johnston. This is a statement signed by the Aquilini Investment Group, including Luigi, Francesco, and Roberto Aquilini. In response to various media inquiries that we have received and due to a private family matter, Paolo Aquilini has resigned from his positions with the team and will be leaving the Canucks ownership group. The statement read, "The remaining owners, Francesco, Luigi, and Roberto, take their role as stewards of this community asset with deep responsibility and pride, and they remain fully committed to bringing the cup to Vancouver. This team holds great meaning for the family and is not for sale. There will be no further comments." Now that's a really bold statement. Straight up saying the team's not for sale, no further comments. We want to hold on to this asset, we take deep responsibility, and we want to bring the cup to Vancouver. Firstly, I'll say, yeah, the last 10 years worth of Vancouver Canucks hockey definitely proves that they're in the market for making the Stanley Cup. Because of the moves that they made, it's like, yeah, you could definitely tell they have an agenda in the back of their minds. They do not want the rebuild. They do not want to see this team take a downturn, and they do not want to see this team falter out of the playoff race, even though Jim Rutherford said this year the JT Miller trade turned them from a contender to a transitioning team. Anyways, it does set things straight, in stone, from the Aquilini family to say this as bluntly as they did, but it does go out there and question some of the other things. This is what the rest of the article says. Former NHL player turned NHL insider Nick Kypreos wrote in the Toronto Star this week about how questions are starting to circulate about whether the Aquilini family was contemplating selling the majority or even a part of the Canucks. And he reasoned that the family may have grown a tad tired of the constant drama surrounding the team. There have been other suggestions too. That could all be noise tied to word getting out about the Canucks needing to finalize a valuation of the franchise. They would be required to do that in the event they need to buy out Paolo's stake, although no one from the club has stated that's happening. Kypreos wrote that market value for the hockey club and Rogers Arena is speculated to be between $2 and $3 billion. However, Sportico, a sports business publication, estimated that the Vancouver Canucks value is around $1.7 billion. So, yeah, that's a little bit off from what Kypreos evaluated. In the event that the Canucks need to bring in a minority partner to add capital as a result of this change, there could be plenty of interested candidates. There were 14 bidders on the Ottawa Senators, and the 13 who lost out to Michael Andlauer could be interested. The article will be linked in the description, but I do find it interesting how Nick Kypreos is the guy who broke this, and I guess you could say, yeah, Nick Kypreos sucks, man. He's never right on these things, yada, yada, yada. But honestly, like, this is just my, again, subjective opinion. When I think of Nick Kypreos as an NHL insider, I think for every wrong thing that he gets wrong, maybe for every 2 or 3 things that he gets wrong, there are some things that pop up once in a while that he's absolutely dead on the money about that we did not even realize. And the biggest example in my mind that I think of right away is when Shea Weber had a career-ending injury that nobody knew about except for Nick Kypreos like a year beforehand. He said in the media that Shea Weber has this injury and it could be really bad, and everybody laughed at him because Shea Weber was playing in that season. And then the Canadiens went to the finals, and then Shea Weber was like, yeah, I'm out. Like, sorry, I'm hurt. And then we all kind of retroactively looked at Kypreos and we're like, oh, he's right. What the hell? And now we're looking at the Aquilini Investment Group. Guys in the organization are dipping from their ownership stakes to part of the Vancouver Canucks. Of course, we don't know why. Speculation, station, nah, that's not what we're going to do here. We're not going to do that. But the bottom line is Canucks ownership does have some moving parts right now. And whether or not that opens the door for a minority owner in the next little while, or potentially even a majority owner if the Aquilinis get sick of owning this team, who knows what the future holds for the Vancouver Canucks. But I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about all this conversation that we had last night, about the Canucks and Aquilini's statement on the team, whether or not you think this does indicate change that is in a direction fans would want to see, with all the fans yelling at Aquilini on Twitter to sell the team. Obviously, this gets everybody all the more intrigued as to developments as to the next few years here. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Trolls 99. And bye.